Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mambo number 5. Last week I posted a video called Is Trad Just a Kink? And you guys really seemed to enjoy it, but I realized that I mostly focused on one creator and I didn't really go too in depth with that question, is trad just a kink? Personally, I think that the TikToker we looked at, the one posting anti-feminist content, is definitely curating her content toward horny dudes, you know? And that's fine. I really don't have an issue with people like looking at kinky stuff online, but as you all know, I am really critical of people who use right-wing talking points to leverage their brand. Grifters, we call them. Unfortunately, it seems like anybody who starts spouting off about anti-wokeness or who demonizes pretty much anything progressive is automatically going to gain like a pretty large following of conservatives, or at the very least, teenagers with troll accounts. But we're gonna ignore that part of it today, and we're just going to try to explore if trad is sexually charged. If you don't know what trad means, it stands for traditional. As an internet niche, it usually means people who hold conservative values, right, in terms of gender or marriage. It could be someone who romanticizes the idea of getting married and having a family. Or it could be someone who holds really Christian values about, you know, a man and a woman taking vows and living together and all that. Or the idea that a man should, you know, provide for the family and the woman should be a homemaker. It goes beyond that, but that's pretty much the crux of it. Obviously, there's not a lot of room in this ideology for like feminism or queerness or even diversity in terms of socioeconomics. Now, this isn't the main point of the video, so I don't want to get too far into it, but I have to point out that there's a huge lack of racial diversity in this content, and most of the visuals these people like to use look a lot like this. Just need to point that out. Some trad content is purely aesthetic, in my opinion. You know, you might see it kind of border on like cottagecore, or it might have like that Chip and Joanna Gaines modern farmhouse look, or it could even be something a little bit more like medieval or Mediterranean. Some trad content is targeted towards women, and it really, you know, it's like teaches them how to become like a transformed wife, or how to surrender to your husband, or how to attract a man who will take care of you. There's also masculinity content that teaches dudes who, you know, work in accounting, how to have the energy of like a Roman warrior. You know, normal stuff. But the question I have is, why does it all feel so damn kinky? Some of it is just dishonest about how kinky it is, and we'll get into that. And even though this is going to be mostly a very fun video, I think, I'm of course going to ruin all of that by talking about fascism in the modern internet age at the end. So look forward to that. We're going to look at some TikTok content, maybe Instagram too. I haven't looked yet. We're just going to explore the trad hashtag, I guess. And we're going to ask ourselves a few questions. Does this feel sexually charged? Why does it feel like that? What are the political undertones of what we're looking at? What is the purpose of posting it? And is it harming anyone? This is the first thing that popped up. It does have an ABBA song, so I'm just going to mute it, but I'll read what it says on the screen. Are you really going to depend on a man financially? But I thought it was interesting because this guy made a response to it.
Trad wife TikTokers have a misplaced nostalgia for an imaginary past. How do I know? Let me walk you through some of the images from the original video that show a supposedly idyllic time to be a traditional housewife. First, we have actress Brigitte Bardot, which is a bit odd since she was a 50s and 60s sex symbol.
Okay, so we've already started with like the sexiness stuff. I mean, this guy immediately points out that there's like this sexualized aspect to this content. You're never gonna see these people post a picture of like trad content where the woman is like frumpy. Let's be real, that's probably more accurate to, you know, like if you actually lived on a farm with your like modest family. This is very much this idyllic fantasy life. It might not be a kink necessarily, but it certainly is a fantasy of some kind.
Synonymous with the sexual revolution and personal freedom. Then there's Gregory Peck, playing a lawyer kissing his wife's shoulder in the movie The Paradigm Case. Which sounds sweet until you realize it's him apologizing to his wife for his emotional affair with a femme fatale client.
Another thing that was like very sexual.
Most of these images come from advertisements.
Yeah.
It's life as a woman as imagined by Mad Men. Like, take this picture from the original video showing a Edwardian-looking family going for an idyllic stroll. It was actually created in the 1950s or 60s by an artist named Bob Barron, who spent his career making advertisements for companies like Coca-Cola and designing covers for romance novels. It is literally fantasy.
Yeah. And not only fantasy, but romantic fantasy.
The fact that this guy was a dude is no accident. Most of these advertisements were created by men and for the male gaze, to titillate and attract men. Women were the secondary audience. Now, if the trad wife lifestyle floats your boat, by all means, go and live that life. But don't live it according to the unrealistic expectations that were invented by men and for men.
Yeah, well said. And I think that it's like that male gaze thing that he's talking about. It's all about this appeal. But let's go deeper. Me 6 years ago, a raging feminist, Miss Independent. I might have to mute this.
Can you imagine
Oh, no, never mind.
the wife of that boorish, brainless Madame
Me, now a conservative trad wife.
Gaston? Can't you just see it? Madame Gaston, his little white...
So, like, Gaston is the bad guy. I love when conservatives almost intentionally, like, misunderstand movies. This dude was literally just there to be an a cartoonish asshole. Also, the fact that she tied it in with, like, it being the opposite of feminism really bothers me. You can be a trad wife if you want. You don't have to undermine somebody else's movement just so that you can be a trad wife. What you're saying when you do that is that you don't want anyone to be a feminist. You want everyone to do what you're doing. That is a fascist little like antic to have. I'm okay if people want to stay home and be a homemaker. I've never opposed that. I think some people really get a lot of value out of that. Oh yeah, so we were gonna ask ourselves these questions. Does this one feel sexually charged? Not super sexually charged. What are the political undertones? I mean, other than aligning yourself with wanting to be Gaston's little wife. I feel like it's like the anti-feminism, like we said. What's the purpose of it? Honestly, I don't know. I think she's evangelizing, maybe. And is it harming anyone? This one was pretty mellow. Post-lobotomy, I no longer feel the need to flee from my life. My husband provides for me, and I get to stay inside taking care of the home all day. Who could want more than that? Someone said, I got mine done at Claire's. This is that same girl. Day in the life as a homemaker. Hold on. Yeah, I can't do the music. Pick a house dress, skincare, makeup, and yeah, I gotta love this camera angle. Breakfast, eggs, maple oatmeal, cucumber salad, Starbucks espresso, and a walk to the park. Yeah, definitely doesn't feel sexually charged. Laundry, grooming my dog, very cute. Clean the house. Oh, hubby's home. Dinner, borscht. Am I saying that right? Bake cupcakes. Epsom salt bath. So let's ask ourselves the questions. Does this feel sexually charged? Absolutely. This is straight up role play material. Like this, that's all this is. What are the political undertones? This one wasn't super political. Again, though, if you like doing these things, if you like staying home, if you like looking hot and pretty, fucking do it. Hell yeah. The feminine urge to just, traditional edition. Submit to my husband, bear his children, love God, be a homemaker, serve my family dinner every night, embrace my inner femininity. Yep, that's it. Whoever ruined our lives by saying we should no longer stay at home while our husbands do all the work should get beat. I think that's another real misunderstanding of history right there. This one's interesting. It says, when trad husbands try to slide into your DMs because you wear cottagecore. She's running. Yeah, it kind of just goes to show that what these men are kind of chasing is kind of just an aesthetic. We're going to go to the real hell world. Oh my god, this is this account that I found, and like, just look at the visuals. They both like, how creepy is this? And this is what I mean when I say like, is trad just a kink? Like, look at these pictures. This is this trad wife 30-day relationship challenge. So let me read some of them to you. Go a whole day without correcting him. Tell yourself he really loves his family and he's doing the best he can. Who are you trying to convince? Surprise him with lingerie and candles. Do not use sarcasm with him. It goes on and on. Again, like a lot of this stuff, which is like literally advertisements from a different era. The worst one ever is fucking Lori from The Transformed Wife. Oh my God. She pretty much just posts pictures of tweets. Like she says, feeling unappreciated and unheard are telltale signs that you have fallen into the trap of self-pity, which is satanic.
That's the devil, Bobby.
My best friend has never argued with her husband. There's never been conflict between them. She shares her thoughts and opinions with him and then leaves it there. She never insists upon being right. Her husband absolutely adores her. She is a wise woman. Sounds like a really cool existence. Just kind of saying stuff and then walking away and just, it doesn't mean anything. Young women, marry a man who understands the importance of you being in the home to be his helpmeet, bearing and raising his children and being a homemaker. You want a man who understands the great value of these over a paycheck. A wife's emotional state is an absolutely horrendous tyrant when it is allowed to rule a home. What about a man's? So we're going to look at the trad Instagram hashtag, tradwife. Girl bossing also looks like listening to your biological need to slow down, being a stay-at-home mom, homeschooling, gardening, making sourdough, and nourishing meals from scratch for family and friends. Wow, it's so like sensory, isn't it? There's a lot of imagery. Getting off birth control. Starting to get weird. Knowing and being in touch with your cycle. Fermenting foods, getting sun, crafting herbal and natural remedies, researching everything for your children. Oh my God. Conscious living, label reading, raising chickens and collecting eggs, breaking away from the system. Is this sexually charged? No, but it certainly has a very deep sensory aspect to it. Be the kind of woman the man you want your husband to be would want to be married to. We live in an age where tradition is the biggest form of rebellion. No, we don't. You cannot just say things. You can't just say things are the biggest form of rebellion. Being traditional is never, by definition, a form of rebellion. So here's another Bridget Bardot, and they said, farmer's daughter, trad wife, hyper feminine aesthetic. And like, that's the thing is I think you can be feminine without it having to mean that you're like a housewife. You can be feminine and be a feminist. I want people to hear that. You can be super feminine. You can do things that are stereotypically feminine and be a feminist and believe in women's empowerment. I feel like we're focusing too much on women though, and I feel like a lot of this has a lot to do with men and their perception of things. So let's look at the hashtag trad man. That's just a nice tweet. Ultimately, the state wants control of your children. They want control over what goes into their body and what goes into their mind. Guys are like, no, I want to control that. The nuclear family and parental sovereignty is the enemy of tyranny. Oh my God. Again, this is like saying tradition is rebellion. No, it fucking isn't. Some of the feminine stuff is definitely more like, do this if you want. Like, great. Please do. Go, be my guest. This is much more like they're pushing their agenda here. Uncage the lion. This reminds me of Game of Thrones. He's like, you wouldn't want to wake the dragon. In their mind, they're like a beast inside, and they're going to unleash it on the world pretty soon. And that to me is... That's so scary. That's where like stochastic terrorism grows out of. And these accounts just feed into that. Okay. Defending faith, family, and truth. Traditional values in Christianity, strength, honor, courage. Wow. A lot of buzzwords here. It must be the same guy because he's posting all his own shit. The war on sex. Okay. This is perfect. I am not reading this fucking caption, but let's just see what it's. Oh, it's just more of his fucking tweets. Okay. Rather than a direct attack at the head of the hierarchy, he starts at the bottom with the woman. Following the devil's lead, she inverts the natural hierarchy entirely. So this is how the hierarchy is supposed to go. First God, then man, then woman, then creature. They're really, really concerned about hierarchy, it seems. Masculinity equals responsibility. That is such a weird thing to say to me because I feel like femininity in their mind is like this motherhood role. And what is motherhood if not responsibility? This, I think, speaks to exactly the kind of people that are being targeted by this. It says, maybe if I started seeking the Lord and being more disciplined, I wouldn't be so miserable. And it's like, he's sad. He's looking at porn. He's looking at TikTok. eating fast food, vaping, looking at Reddit, and then he looks happy and he says, "Yep, that was it." And he's got meal prep, he's working out, he's looking at the Bible. It's just really predatory, I guess is the only word I can think of. And then, you just get a lot of pictures like this, and it says motherhood is a gift from God. I'm like scared to click on this account. Family, faith, fatherland. Beauty will save the world. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. It is better to be a dictator than it is to be gay. All right, I can't look at that stuff much longer. In general, did a lot of that feel sexually charged? Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of it is just like a vibe that people want. There's definitely a lot of like political undertones of like conservatism, Christianity, really nothing outside of that. And they're wrapping anti-feminism into that, even though you can be feminine and be a feminist. And is it harming anyone? Yeah, I think it is, because a lot of people will end up in marriages with a lot of children that maybe they were not prepared for. And maybe there's some unresolved shit going on in a lot of the hearts and minds of these people, and they should seek therapy. This is the part where I ruin all the fun. We saw like, Uncage the Lion, and we saw appealing to that 50s sense of the nuclear family, or the really, really beautiful women, or the really, really ripped men. We see this imagery over and over again. And it reminded me of something I read recently. And I'm reading a book called The Post-Internet Far Right. Have not finished it, so I won't give a review just yet. But it's teaching me how to talk about these people and how to dissect their actions in a way that I think is hopefully somewhat productive. Because going around and calling every single, slightly conservative Instagram grifter a Nazi is really not going to get us anywhere. Let me just read this line about the way that fascists will use mythology, and imagery to spread their message. This is not because fascists are particularly imaginative, but because, lacking a material basis for their politics, such as class struggle or the struggles of the oppressed, fascists instead think in terms of quasi-mythic imaginary forms, always metaphysically clashing in a realm of pure strife, its images deeply freighted with feeling. And this reminded me so much of this trad content. I think we all have this image in our head of what biblical times must have looked like or felt like. And that time period is given so much weight and righteousness that I think anybody who is Christian or has Christian values has an urge to almost recreate that for themselves in a modern sense. Even though there's nothing to prove that traditional marriage is better, or that women being oppressed is a good thing, or that hardcore masculinity is even useful, there doesn't need to be a reason, a material basis to recreate the biblical times and its values. In other words, traditional marriage isn't better. These people just think it's sort of hot. And by hot, I mean it satisfies some part of their brain that says, Bible good. There isn't any factual basis for it. It's just vibes. Just like with a sexual kink, there doesn't need to be a good reason or an ideology behind it. You don't need to be able to write a thesis about why you like to get stuffed in a box or stepped on. It's just something that makes a person feel good, even though it's objectively bad. That's what this fantasy is. But the difference is that most kinks start and end in the bedroom, right? Whereas this trad lifestyle has permeated all parts of our lives. It's our politics, it's this religion, it's in our culture. It's kind of like when furries wear their fursuits to the mall. And you're like, keep it in the bedroom, No shame, but keep it in the bedroom. Unfortunately, this traditional lifestyle, which is essentially a patriarchal one, does cause people harm. When you give a man his own little kingdom, he gets to exercise that lust for power over something. And in a world where most men have very little control over their conditions, that's like a wet dream to them. And in my opinion, that's the exact reason hierarchy is always perpetuated across all cultures. It's just everybody gets a little power over someone else. So this is why when men are alienated and disenfranchised in society, everyone loses. Because if men are feeling that way, they're going to take it out on other people. And I know this was a really heavy way to end this, but I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think it's harmless? Do you think it's kind of hot? What's going on with this trend? I think it's a kink based on what we see on social media, at least. All right, it was great talking to you guys. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye. Today's ad-free video was brought to you by looking at the tissue after you blow your nose. A big thanks to today's sponsor, and thanks to you for watching this video. There's more where that came from. Every Sunday and Tuesday, I'm uploading brand new videos, unless I don't feel like it, in which case, please do not confront me about it. Also, every single Thursday, I go live at 1 p.m. Pacific time for an episode of Loser TV. It's like TV for losers. If you want to support me financially, you can sign up for my Patreon. There's a $3 fan club tier if you want your name on the screen like these schmucks. Plus there's a 666 tier for business witches. If you sign up for that tier, you can get every video a day early. And plus there's a Sigma Losers tier for the elites. Don't worry, I give all my money to God. Be sure to subscribe and I'll see you next time.